Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Silver Tears Tarot. So, today we're looking into whether or not you should expect communication from your person or whether you can expect existing communication to improve. I got the question an overwhelming number of times this last few days, and so we're just going to ask that question and talk about communication and interaction between the two of you, focusing more on that physical realm. So that's what today's is going to be about. It'll be a general reading as always. And so it's a general reading for the collective. So if you find that it does resonate with you, because it won't resonate with everybody, should not resonate with everybody. But if you find that it does resonate with you, maybe stick around. Think about subscribing. And then, maybe look at some of the other messages that have come out for you. So, starting as I like to do with the emotional and energetic backdrop, this is just kind of the energy that you guys are in today, the energy that's around you. Sometimes this is broader than you, and it's something that's, you have a bunch of planets that are in retrograde, and you've got another one that's getting ready to go here in a couple of days. That's that sort of thing. Or actually, is it today? I think it's today. The Mercury retrograde starts today. We've been seeing evidence of it, and kind of the the shadow period that comes beforehand. So I mean, I know that it's been noticeable. It's been noticeable, even if it's hard to sometimes discern the edges, compared with some of the other things that are going on. But we've got this Queen of Cups. This is a feeling of almost shrinking back and maybe even having a little bit of a setback, I guess. Emotionally, it feels like it's them more than it's you. I feel like maybe you're standing still, but there's a sense of a setback with your person. Just maybe that they aren't moving forward and are maybe sliding a little bit. They're losing some ground on the healing that they've done. And some of this is going to be a bit of a tug of war. So losing ground is not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it's just part of the overall process for them. They've got the Magician in reverse, so they're feeling a little bit like they don't have the ability to do what they need to do in their own life, manifest what they want. And yet there's this outrageous change, this Tower card coming out. This is very heavily their energy. Sometimes it's yours together shared. You may be feeling some of this, but I think if you're feeling this, it may be also partially because they are feeling it so much. But this is more what's happening with them. There's a huge change that's occurring for them on that very basic emotional upheaval level. So there's something that is relatively huge that they have a hard time seeing past that's happening for them there, and they feel powerless. There's a sense of that. You'll notice a little bit of maybe codependent behaviors coming out of them if you do happen to communicate. So this is good to know because we're talking specifically about communication today, and if we find that this would be really a tough energy for them to successfully communicate or do better with communication, then if we see that that also bears out, then we say, okay, this is actually in keeping with the energy that we're seeing there. But one of the changes that's happening with your person and possibly even with you is a little bit of a change that in the like their overall environment, the place where they live. It doesn't have to be their house. It can be something that's happening with them at work, but it is fairly foundational to their environment. There's a change that's happening there, but that is not necessarily the change we see represented in this tower. That's more of an internal change for them. They are moving back toward wanting to partner up. They want to have a partner in all of this. There is something that's emerging for them here that is very uncomfortable. Kind of does change their life around a little bit. It feels like it's got a sense of knowing that there's going to be complications surrounding some decisions that they're making or that they're being led to make. And being led to make, I think a lot of that is happening with their own internal changes. So it's not just the external pressures that are pushing them, there's internal pressures that are pushing them to make some different decisions as well. That's what's happening with this Tower card. The Ten of Pentacles in the reverse may be more of those external forces, and then they are feeling fairly powerless. But this Queen of Wands here in reverse tells me it's there's something about it that just is terrifying to them and makes them want to lock up and not move at all. Like it feels like they are, you know how sometimes you really just have that push through and make things happen, and that's really lacking in them right now. There's a sense of that energy just kind of not being there. It's not so much, it's not even an impact from a mood that they're in. It's energy surrounding them, or maybe too many energies surrounding them. There's a Four of Wands here. They are still very much being lured in moment to moment. They are still being lured into the stability of just not changing things. If they were to find some way to keep things the same, which with this Tower card, I'm not convinced they can. I feel like that's something that's happening deep down inside of their values and their emotions. And it's that overall foundational shifting of some values that we've seen, but it's not a quick process. So the fact that we see it changing doesn't mean tomorrow this is going to be over with. It's kind of got that sense that it's a more of a long-term, now after the things change, they have to get right with it. They have to figure out how to kind of really assimilate that into their worldview. But right now they are very tempted to just not change things, and that may not even be an option for them, but that's something that they would really like to do, because it would be so much easier to not rock the boat. Here we have the Queen of Cups in reverse once again, though. This is the same as that Queen of Cups in reverse that we see over there. And what's tough about this is their strength failing, or not really their strength, but their learnings. They're going back on something. This is that emotional setback that's happening. So this is a little bit of a red flag, the way that this reads for me, because it feels like an emotional setback from something that they've learned during this course, and that you are aware that they've made some progress on. It feels like they're having a setback. So you may see some behavior out of them that is maybe you thought they had moved past. So that may be disappointing to you, and that would be legitimate. I mean, they may not be ready to move past it, but for you to be disappointed by it would still be legitimate, even if you choose to be very gentle with them about it, which we'll see what the advice for you is, because we're definitely going to ask for that. We've got the Page of Swords here in the upright. So this is promising, especially in the context of seeing it come out with the Seven of Swords in the reverse. All right, so they're reverting back to something that they've done before. This is a mistake, or not really a mistake, but it's a time of weakness for them. I suspect it does have something to do with them reacting to the stability of the things they'd rather not change, but I don't think it is a direct connection. I think it's kind of more of a chain reaction. They want to feel this way, so they self-sabotage something, and they self-sabotage it in a way that causes them to maybe manifest something that's a codependent behavior that you thought they were past, for example. Just an example that I'm putting out there. I don't think it's direct. I do think it's indirect, but I think that they're related. But with the Seven of Swords in the reverse, this is where the Sun comes out for me a little bit, because there's this sense that even though there's reverting behavior, there's a setback, there's also, but they're not the same person. Even though they're maybe making an old mistake, they're not the same person making that mistake. So it does come across a little differently, and they're able to move themselves out of a difficult emotional place a little bit more quickly. So that's promising. This energy really did turn into kind of being all about them, but that's fine, because we want to understand what's happening with communication from them anyway. So just to set this up for you guys a little bit, I got several, sometimes I just, the communication from this collective is so loud, it doesn't matter what I thought I was going to do a reading on. Like, the next thing you have to do is whatever everybody said. Some days you guys wake up and you're like, this day is terrible, and I have to do a reading to see, well, what happened today, what's so special in today's energy, and maybe we change the questions for that. So we're doing that today. This was I feel like, because remember yesterday I had received some notes saying I feel like they're on the edge of waking up to me. Should I prod them? You kind of got the advice, maybe not to directly do that. But now the question is, well, I feel like I'm going to hear from them. I feel like they're about to hit send. Tell me what's going to happen. And we know we can't tell you what's going to happen because free will plays into it. And that is something that cannot be predicted. But we can absolutely look at the energy of the direction things are going and what is kind of out there and what that backdrop is. So we see this backdrop. There's a lot happening with them right now. But then the question is, are they reaching out? And some of you who are already in communication, I at first felt like it was a different reading, but then I realized it was the same one. This person wrote, we're in communication, but this is not like good, reliable, comfortable communication. Is it going to get better? What's the direction that's going? So we're kind of checking on the overall direction of the communication here, but for a great many of you, it is, am I going to hear from this person? So let's look into what you need to know around that. We've seen your person's emotions kind of going in and out of focus here recently. All right, we have the Seven of Cups. There is confusion. There's confusion in your person, and yet there's passion with the Ace of Wands about moving forward. They think they're going to contact you. So they think they're going to contact you. This could be, remember back in April, if you were here, we had this rash of people reach out to say, I've heard from my person and it's been years. Like, I just thought I was making this whole thing up and I was never going to hear back from this person. And then I heard from them, and lo and behold, things got weird again. They disappeared, they reblocked, they weren't healed enough. So we see that pattern happening again, but we've actually seen it a couple of times since April. So here again, though, we've got the energy of people thinking they're going to contact you. Like, even if yours wasn't one of the people who came back in April or since then, when we've had the one or two waves of communication, these are like high tide that is higher than normal tide. These are things that even some of the folks who haven't come back are thinking they're going to. Not thinking about doing it, but thinking they're going to. It's already something that's kind of set into motion, but they're incredibly confused about it. What are they confused about? Because we've seen the emotions kind of going all over. They're probably confused because of the changes in the values, but I may be jumping the gun there. That's just because I know it's happening. They may not know what's happening. I think that may be part of the actual confusion, not knowing what's happening with the change in the values, because we've been seeing in these readings, your person has some values to shift from when they were very young, and it's going to take a little bit of time for them to assimilate those changes into their life once they discover them. But remember, there's still that whole piece about them figuring out even what has to change. And, it's values that I need to make some adjustments to. So they have a little bit more, they're working with this healing that they've already built. This is the Five of Cups in reverse, and it's them being able to see the good and the bad, not just the bad. They have, I'll get to this Queen of Pentacles in just a second here, but they've also got this Three of Wands, which kind of just reflects that same energy of, this is something with the Ace of Wands, they think they're going to do it. This Three of Wands says that it's already set into motion, which if I don't remember if I said that earlier or if I was just thinking it, but the Three of Wands definitely has that sense of them having set something into motion, but they are not feeling confident and they are not feeling healed. In fact, they're feeling a little bit set back on their heels. They're feeling a little bit like, I'm not sure I should move forward. It's got this, I don't think I've seen a Chariot card today, but for some reason I just have like a Chariot card from a very, not one of the decks that I have here. It's this really interesting deck where all of the names are a little bit different and they're kind of hard to pronounce. It's a beautiful, beautiful deck. But what I'm thinking of is like that Chariot card in reverse, okay? And that's the summary of the feelings I'm getting from this Queen of Pentacles and this Knight of Wands, both of whom are in reverse. Both of them are kind of giving me that sense of I can't possibly move forward, but it has to do with what I don't know. Not so much what I do know, which I feel like I could get past, but it's that unknown that is just too fearsome to move past. And here I should have, again, looked at this before I started talking, because that's the feeling of this card. This is all about the unknown. When you see the moon in the upright here, and this moon, the sliver of this moon is about like what we've got in the night sky right now. So it's waxing. It's going to be, we're moving toward our second super moon of August. And so that's going to be not just a super moon, but also a blue moon, and the power of it. So it doesn't happen for another week, but I can already feel like the ramping up, and I woke up out of a meditation earlier like, oh, what is this? And I think it was this coming in, but not necessarily in a bad way, just like in a particularly powerful way. But if it's your person where they're not sure where they stand on things and they're not feeling like their feet are firmly planted on the ground, this can be a little bit scary. So there's a sense of a scary energy that seems to be ramping up for them. It's exciting and scary. The scariness is winning out though, and we see with the Nine of Wands here that there's this feeling of them kind of in resistance overall to the changing energy. So that's typical for them. I mean, I don't feel like this is, I feel like I've been reading for this same collective since I got out here on YouTube, and this is not at all strange to feel this energy coming from them. What's different is how far they've come. So they've got this, the Seven of Swords in reverse, and this energy, Page of Swords in the upright here, the Five of Cups in the reverse, even to some extent the Three of Wands in the upright, are all giving me a good feeling of this is not the same person that you initially ran across. Yes, they're still struggling with basically the same issue, and they're not feeling like they have good clarity on this, which means you may not see their best behavior out of them. But they're a different person. They're a different person. They have covered some ground. So we've got to give them some credit for that. And at this point, they know something is happening. So they know something's up. There was a long time for some of these people where they were in denial of there being a real bond here. There's a sense here that there's recognition of that bond. Not necessarily, I know what I'm going to do about it. They're sure they're going to reach out to you though. This is kind of some of what's coming in behind that. Although we're getting very little about their emotions. So we might look into that in the extended and probably look a little bit more deeply into what's happening here. Because I feel like we're getting between the energy of today, and this is like the energy of today, but the weather for your bond. And this is all about your bond. And I think I might just want to dig into that a little bit further, because this is not so much new concepts from what we've seen in previous readings, but it's a little bit more of as close to time bound as you typically get in these things. It's saying, hey, we've gotten to a new level. There's stuff you need to know about it. So for example, that they're still going to have setbacks that look like this. They're still going to have setbacks that look like codependency. And yet they're going to be different people. So instead of it felling them and creating a significant issue across all of their efforts, maybe it gets them down for a day or two, and then they bounce back and they're able to say to themselves, even if not quite to you, I'm in a better place. You know, I mean, there is some recognition of that has to happen. Here we have the Page of Wands in the upright. So this is a almost word for word, well, probably not word for word, but it's very much vibe for vibe what I was just kind of describing there. This is almost a curious kind of energy that's welling up in them. I feel that with the moon, and I see it with all these wands cards. The star isn't a wands card, but it sure does fit in, doesn't it? I mean, if you just look at the colors and the way that it feels, there's a sense of it really kind of fitting in, and a lot of passion that is coming out, and it's kind of covering up their fear. My question is, does the fear win? Because there's a lot of confusion in there. But this is kind of what's, they think they're coming your direction. Four of Pentacles in the reverse. Yeah, they don't think they can maintain whatever this is with the, this is representing that change from, among other things, that third party energy. So some of it's third party energy. Some of it is, other factors that just have represented stability in their life, but something that they feel needs to change. So you have the Four of Pentacles. That's them basically letting go and saying, I'm just gonna move. And then you have the Lovers card. Like, they know on some level why they're doing it. They know why they're reaching out to you, and they know there's a strong bond there, especially with that Star card. They've stopped telling themselves that this isn't real. And I know sometimes you may even have days where you're kind of telling yourself, you're not sure if this is real because it's all become very confusing. They have had a lot of those days as well, if you can relate to that. So we're definitely getting deeper into this when we get into the extended, because it feels like the messages just want to come out for us, but I'm supposed to stop drawing cards here. And go into what it is that you're recommended to do. Because as always, we're going to ask the question, what is it that you should take into consideration as you're looking at all of this? Where should your focus be now? But we're also going to ask the question, practically speaking, what should you be doing? So you may expect to hear from this person, because even if you haven't, and even if that sounds like a pipe dream, there's a sense that they think they're coming back now. People, this might be more than one person. You might have more than one former soulmate, because soulmates come in different shapes and sizes and different shades of your life and across your life with different lessons. You've got a very significant bond with this one that you've been getting the messages, these readings for. But there may be additional past people who are also feeling that. And of course, with a Mercury retrograde, this isn't really strange, but this is like lifting my head off my shoulders, kind of. Like, I mean, I know it's not lost on me that I'm out here reading tarot cards on YouTube, but it's got like this extra mystical feel to it. I would just put that out there. Given that I'm saying that from the perspective of a person who did not think they would ever be reading tarot cards out on YouTube. So, bit more of a data-driven person. This is not a data-driven feeling. This is feeling like just very mystical and yet very guided and directed. So I don't know how much they're going to be able to fight back against that. I feel like you're going to start hearing from some people, and the communication that you're receiving. So some of you who are already in communication, you might hear from them differently. I get the sense that it causes them to want to open up a little bit more. And we've seen some vulnerability, but not necessarily with the comfort. You may get a glimpse of that comfort in this energy. Yeah, can't wait to get in and look a little bit more deeply at that. Let's look at you first. Let's get that practical advice, and what should you be doing? What should you be focusing on? And then we'll go to the extended, and we'll see how things are looking there. So, ooh. You've got the Three of Swords. Three of Swords, Three of Cups. Something here. Oh, and the Strength card in reverse. Something here is just very real, something you can't look past. I get the phrase in my mind, the damage is done. So that's with the Three of Swords. This isn't new things that you find out about. This is you just being aware of what has bothered you about things in the past. You have the Strength card in reverse, showing that there is... that's the fear winning out over the strength. So this is you maybe not finding yourself in a strong feeling of a position. So your position hasn't changed, but especially with regard to energy that is happening on your side, as well as your response to energy that's happening on their side. Remember how a few days ago I did a reading for those of you who were just feeling drained from this whole thing, this has a little bit of that sense to it. Has a little bit of that feeling of you still being a little drained and not being able to get past certain things. And it is certain things that as you have this person or these people coming back to you, you may say, I don't know that I accept this. And that's something that's been coming up in our readings here recently anyway. Like, what portion of the healing are you at? And where do you land on it? Because here it has you saying, this is the Justice card in reverse. This isn't right. It still isn't balanced. I'm still not really going to be a party to this. There's something here that says satisfaction is not being reached based on your perspective. But I also see the King of Wands here, and this is what I think you want to watch for. But watch for it and then run it through your own judgment, because it might be exactly right what you're doing. This is the King of Wands saying there may be a tendency to control this. It's an unbalanced warning, but not necessarily that you're going to do this, just for you to watch for it. Look for you to maybe try to direct traffic a little too much. This is, you may be trying to take too much control of it just to make sure that they don't hurt you, is what it feels like. And so that's okay. It's your own lessons that maybe haven't yet been completed. But be watching for that side of you that is yet unhealed, especially in the light of, with that Three of Cups, that's not to be ignored. That's not just their third party energy. That is your own. So you've got something else that requires your energy that you're going to feel like you need to put it into that. Whether it's your family, your job, you may have some things going on at home or in your personal or social life that require a little bit more attention right now. You've got this King of Cups that says you're going to have integrity about it. You're going to have charisma about it. So we talked earlier about your person coming in with these like weird jive tendencies, and then you having potentially just being very gentle about it. You may be able to walk that high road. You're encouraged to walk the high road where possible, but it is also acknowledged here that you're going to be feeling like you're in maybe an emotional tough place, maybe even tougher than you might realize until you hear from this person. So this is saying, if this should happen to you now, be aware that what you're feeling is totally valid. And if it seems like, wow, I'm not as receptive to this as I was certain I would be, it's okay. But definitely there's a strong, I guess, recommendation to handle it in a way that shows integrity and uses your charisma. Because with this is the Seven of Pentacles. This is you recognizing that an investment has not been made. And it's like you look at this situation and you may feel that the investment still has not been made or has not been sufficiently promised. Okay, let's see what came up here. You have a strong tendency toward balance. But okay, this is actually the wind blowing in your favor. So as you're looking here at the situation and saying something isn't right, I'm not ready to move with this yet, your energy may actually bump them away from making what would probably be a mistake anyway, that you would successfully field and it wouldn't destroy things. So what I'm getting is, if they reach out to you, which they think in a lot of cases they're going to in this energy, call it Mercury retrograde, call it this upcoming moon, I mean, call it everything that's already out there, call it what you will, but they feel like they're going to reach out to you in a lot of cases here. You have the ability to look at it and say, I am not ready for this, or I am maybe ready for this. This is basically, if you're ready for it under this circumstance, then you're more healed, because this is still one of those raw moments that happens to even the most healed people, but it's going to be, this is where you would be at your weakest and have a hardest time not being triggered. But I do see there's hope here, because this is the Fool card, and it's got an interesting element of the actual Fool to it, because Usually the Fool card is about jumping into something new. It's sometimes afraid of feeling like a fool. And in this case, it's not being afraid to. It's saying, I've learned something significant enough here that maybe I end up looking like a fool, and maybe I end up making a mistake, but it's not a mistake I don't feel like I can't come out of. And you'd be right about that. Let's see what else here. This is better than I thought when I first started drawing these cards, because I was like, oh, you're feeling beaten down still. Yes, yes, and yes, and your judgment also should be very much trusted here, and it looks like you have the ability to be reasonably charismatic and diplomatic in your response. Channel the right person. Think of the most, and I don't mean channel in a like a literal sense, but when it's like when you're sitting I have a corporate job, okay, and so when I'm sitting in a meeting and things are very, very challenging, there are certain people I look back on my career and I can just say, what would so and so do, and then I can think through, well, they would handle it this way, they might use this tone. That's what you want to do here when you get to this one of these challenging situations. And remember, you could have more than one person coming your way. You get to these challenging situations, channel that most diplomatic person and just let it roll. I mean, because that's basically what's going to do both of you the best, the most good. But you may not feel like you're really ready to say yes to these people just yet. That's going to be perfectly okay. That Nine of Pentacles in the reverse just says you're continuing to heal. The rest of these cards say that healing is happening. Here it's showing that you have a new perspective coming in. It's not here yet. This is the Hanged Man, and it's representative of a new perspective, but it's also kind of still hanging. So there's a sense of this developing for you. It's a positive thing, and you're going to have some help as you active help as you come through. It's kind of like this is a minor arcana hierophant almost. There's guidance that's coming your direction, and it's going to come in the form of somebody there to help you. So some of you have already been running across this new soulmate that we saw coming in the cards some time ago, and so now I keep getting these notes. Well, I found him. Hey, it's somebody I already knew. And by the way, it totally could be somebody that you already knew, but they're gonna reflect differently, so it'll seem almost like it's new to you. That's what I would say about somebody that you already know. But there's a sense that you get like somebody shows up in your life that does help to move things along a little bit more clearly and easily here. Change becomes more possible, and it becomes more positive. That is something else that I would say. So I am going to go ahead and wrap it up here. We'll go into the extended. The link is down below. I look forward to seeing you there, or I will see you again in tomorrow's reading.